Today we're going to see Alexandra. And it's she precious. This is the one that I'm going to keep because she is female. Oh. Let's see if I could show you. Okay. You just kind of see those little red things. They're really hard to see, but they're there. And those are her teats. That shows that she's female. And she is pretty much tamed. I was just holding her a few minutes ago. That's why she was kind of eager to get out. But she is tamed. You could tell because she didn't try to bite me. She wasn't trying to nip at me. She wasn't squealing. She wasn't frantic trying to get out. She was just kind of like, well, I'm done. Leave me alone. Some of the hamsters in here are only semi-tamed. Hi. You're like, you disturbed me from eating. When it comes to working with little ones, make sure when you first start training them, whether it be this young or older, to start by just rubbing them. Because that way they get used to you touching them, and then they can kind of get a hold of your scent. And then once they start getting used to that after like 3 or 4 days, depending on how old or young, you might need 4 or so for a little bit older. And you pretty much just slowly pick them up for a few seconds, starting out with. Do that like 2-3 times a day. And then continue to do that throughout like the week. And slowly rise it up like every 2 days. So every 2 days, rise it up by 1 extra holding. And then continue to pet them throughout the day. And then by the time that you could separate them from their mother, you can simply pick them up and not have them completely freak out, which is fun. And then if you have an older one that you say got from the pet store or something, those it's easier to kind of bribe them with treats, and then while they're eating, kind of slowly pet them. Or what I like to do is I kind of like to go almost all out for it and just kind of hold them like once or twice a day to start out with, and then continue upping it every 2 days until the hamster is used to being pets, held, eating out of my hand, doesn't nip or squeal. Because I actually did have that problem with Ginger, who is in her little thing. And I also had that problem with Gina, who I think is also in the little thing. And so it took me, since they were first generation, it took me, I'd say, I think it was like 4 weeks to tame them. So 1 month it took me to tame them, because they were kind of neglected by their previous breeder. So they were not used to being touched, picked up, or fed from my hand, or anything like that. And so they were pretty much just given to the pet store and said, here you go. So then I ended up taking them in, and it was kind of difficult training them. But since I worked with her mother, Sheila, she, I think, was the hardest one to try and train because she was a nipper, and she did not like to be held at all. It was lots of fun. Had plenty of bite marks, lots of blood drawn, always fun. But it took me 4 months to fully tamed her, and I'm not sure why it took her so long to be tamed. So on an average, depending on how old your hamster is when you get them, you might need to work more on adults and other hamsters versus some like these that are almost instantly tamed. This again depends on their age. It depends on where they've came from. It depends on if anybody has socialized with them. It all really just depends on the circumstances and how well they were taken care of before. Sarah actually used to be a biter. No, I nipped her out of that after 6 weeks old, and she's been a pretty darn good hamster since then. Very destructive, though. Very destructive, which is once again why she's in a glass container, because she was one of the destructive hamsters. They do exist. And then all the other hamsters I've had have had no problems whatsoever. So, but yeah, I gotta go save Nana from my sweet baby girl. So, toodles everyone!